evident that the federal government is supporting the state of emergencies that were declared by the governors of each of those 3 states that are going to be most impacted. And from a state level, it's being really seriously mandated that local authorities take full and complete efforts and preparedness efforts and ensure that those who are most vulnerable and those who are going to be in those impacted areas are told, regardless of whether or not they listen. And we always hope every season that, you know, everybody's going to pay attention, but there's always a few cases where that doesn't happen. But the word is out, people know they need to evacuate.
Right, I was going to ask you if people do heed the advice they have been given, because it must be such an incredibly hard thing to do, to leave your home potentially to devastation, even if it is a very risky thing to stay.
Yes, and that is something that we see, but having spoken to some fellow scientists that are on the ground who study hurricanes and the impact of severe storms and sea level rise, and then additionally coastal erosion in vulnerable parts of the United States, specifically the geography that we see off the coast of the Carolinas, which are barrier islands that are very vulnerable to being submerged and flooded. Though there is a lot of interest in staying and studying, even these colleagues of mine are saying, and even though that they're potentially miles and miles away, 100 miles even away from anticipated landfall, there is still a quote-unquote freaking out that is going on, where it's been 30 years since anyone has seen a storm this big hit that particular part of the U.S., and that was Hurricane Hugo back in 1989. And so it's not being taken lightly. Even those who want to stay and study it are getting up, they're heeding the warning. Because again, we see what's happened in the past, and we know that this is not going to be a gentle storm by any measure.
And how has what we know a storm does in its behavior, where it goes, how we can predict its path, how has that improved over recent years, particularly in those appalling storms that we've seen, particularly last year?
Yes, and that's a great question. So every year, fortunately or unfortunately, we learn. We learn from the devastation that's caused. We improve our models. We are putting in more inputs, and the models are getting that much more accurate. And in the case of Florence, we're seeing that the European model and the US model are converging in terms of what they see the anticipated path of impact to be. And so it's really now been unanimously agreed that it is reaching the United States, coming at 90 degrees, and hitting across a continental shelf that really extends out into the ocean, into the Atlantic Ocean, 50 miles or so. So that topography is going to, and this is agreed upon across the models, result in even bigger storm surges than would have happened if this was coming along the coast of Florida, because there's a steeper drop-off. And so we know what to expect much better than we did from the past, and we can prepare for it that much more. Storm surges are what is the most worrisome impact related to a hurricane hit. And you're getting a story high of salt water that is going to inundate the coastal landfall. And so from there, then as the hurricane moves inwards and then just kind of drops precipitation, because there's so much more water in the air, the combination of the storm moving slowly, the storm surge, and then the heavy precipitation is guaranteed. We know that we can anticipate certain impacts, and we have to prepare. I mean, there's absolutely no excuse not to be proactive about this and not to heed the warnings.
Very serious situation to come. Thank you very much, Dr. Shweta Chakraborty, behavioural scientist from our Washington newsroom. Thank you.